I'd like to thank Dr. Chitra very much for inviting me to this wonderful course. It's indeed very kind of her. I'm going to talk to you a little on IOL power discrepancies. Irrespective of how great a surgeon you are, irrespective of how great a surgery you have done, if the power at the end of the story is not perfect, you have an unhappy patient. And telling the patient, I did a great job, is not going to make the patient or you any happier. So, we do have to look into the discrepancies, and I'm going to bring out to you in a short period of time the places where you really need to look into it. Ultrasonography, as we are aware over a period of time, has been the standard of measurement, and the rising standards of IOL power acceptability, if you look just at the end of the line where it says the new ASCRS survey in 2013 says that your accuracy should be within a quarter diopter in 45% of cases and within a half diopter in 92% of your cases. In simple language, nobody now accepts errors. The aim, therefore, is to provide a lens which will give you a perfect fitting. But in all these, the most important criteria which you have to look into is the axial length. And the axial length measurement is most important because a millimeter error causes almost a 3 diopter error in the final result. There are various methods in which you measure the axial length and which you have to be careful so you do not land up with a discrepancy. And the common way we nowadays utilize is the immersion A-scan. The direct contact A-scan we no longer use purely because it causes compression and can lead to a host of problems. A very good method of combining the two is to use an immersion AB scan, which is what we call as a vector biometry, where you can utilize the B scan component to be sure that your A scan line is going exactly where you want it to and is passing precisely. So you make sure it passes through the center of the cornea and goes right at the part, and you should aim for it just a little below the optic nerve. This is the optic nerve. So you just have to go a little below it and set your line, and your axial measurements will be almost perfect. Optical biometry has now become an alternate, and there are various methods of utilizing it, including the optical biometer and the Zeiss biometric systems. The partial coherence interferometry, which is what we now call this system, essentially utilizes the axial measurement in the visual axis, and therefore the power accuracy is comparatively higher. There are various formulas we need to utilize, and that is where the fun and games come. Stay with me. I know it's a little boring after seeing those wonderful videos, but remember, your patient is only happy when he sees well at the end. The formulas fall into two categories only, regression and theoretic. Regression formulas, SRK, SRK2, etc. are now gone, dead and dying, and really no longer should be utilized. Very often we utilize a lens and we look at an SRK reading. The SRK reading essentially is only a method by which tells you an approximate setting of the lens, and therefore it is not really functional. When we look into theoretical formulas, the important thing is you need to calculate, most important is you need to calculate where your lens sits in the eye, or what we call as ELP. And the ELP, or what we call as the estimated lens position, is therefore now considered to be one of the most important criteria as far as the patient is concerned. In these ELP formulas, the best theoretical formulas available to you are the Holliday 1, 2 and Hoffer, Q and high gaze. And I'm going to show you in a few moments what happens when these changes occur. An A constant is an important method, therefore, to prevent discrepancies, and was originally designed for the SRK equipment. However, the A constant now has changed radically, and the one-by-one calculation is required. Now, one of the questions often asked is, how do you do power calculation in a cornea graft to land up with the problem? It is impossible to know the central power of the donor graft, and therefore a best guess post-op corneal power such as 44 diopters can often lead to a host of surprises. So what do? The best is, of course, you just carry out a cornea graft. Then once your host tissue is removed in the usual and open sky method is done, you prepare your bag, as one would say, keep it ready, and after 4 to 6 months, after the topography is stabilized, you then insert your lens. That gives you the most accurate. Some of the problems with standard power calculations with the intraocular formulas essentially are displayed very clearly on this one simple slide, which it shows essentially that if you have young children, the problems vary tremendously. Adults are not too bad. So when you are handling children, be extremely careful with intraocular power calculations, as the calculations will go on changing with age. Following refractive surgery, in post-RK eyes, the true cornea power calculation can only be estimated by taking into account the effective optical zone, the central zone. So do not look into the peripheral, do not look at the topography, don't depend on topography guided points, look at the central zone and utilize that, and that will prevent you to land up with problems in your final assessment. In keratometry errors after a lesion correction, again the same problem occurs. How do you calculate it? And the easy way of doing it is to make sure that your corneal power is decreased and the ELP power can be modified and stated to the precise period you want to apply it. So in these sort of things, when you get your final calculations, you use the true power calculation system. In the true power calculation system, you can either do a contact lens over refraction method, or you can use a topography based system utilizing either the Wang or the Sharma's formula. Of the two, Sharma's formula is much easier. You just have to go on the net, dial up Sharma's and you'll get your details. The net corneal power measurements I'm not going to delve into. And for post-refractive surgery eyes, either the double K or the Hoffer Q. Hoffer Q seems to work the best, gives you the best possible results, cuts down on discrepancies. And the alternate is a Huygens L, especially if you have put silicone oil in the eye, seems to work as a good alternate. When you compare the IOL measurements by IOL versus theoretical calculations, you notice that they are almost on an equal setting on both sides. So it doesn't really make much difference. But if you see the power post-operatively in anterior chamber depth, you notice that the changes are quite different when it runs down at different powers, indicating that in the end results on high end or low end, you have to utilize different power settings to prevent discrepancies landing up. This is a group which is there for laser interferometry biometry, and it's a good, just remember ULIB, put it into your computer, and it's a useful little device which gives you. In the future of IOL power calculations to prevent discrepancies, he is utilizing the new swept source OCT system, which will soon be available. I believe there's a model lying there for this thing, and it gives you the big advantages that it does not cuts down on surprises. You can verify your measurements much more easily because it gives you a sonography based pattern, and it utilizes what we call as telecentric keratometry, which enables it to function easily. You can trigger it down with the result that discrepancies therefore can now be reduced, hopefully symmetrically and more effective in virtually all the surprises which we are getting up to date. Thank you.